वसल्लम अला रसूलिल करीम। अम्मा बाद फ़ौज़ बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। Starting with the name of Almighty Allah, the Creator of earth and everything surrounding us. Almighty, who runs the rivers, who feed the cattle, who sparkles the stars in the sky, and upon whom will our air fall this session. Okay, being a Muslim, we all believe the supremacy of Almighty Allah. And here to start everything with this great name. And in this context, I will invite to take over the mic and recite few verses from the Holy Quran to make this session blissful. So, Dude, please start reciting.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العظيم.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. To accomplish great things, we must not only act but also dream, plan but also believe. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Ali Shan, a student of International Relations at NUMIL and a member of Dailymers. First of all, I welcome you all on the behalf of Dailymers. Dailymers is basically an organization initiated by the students of Department of International Relations. The activities revolve around boosting students' communication skills, creative writing, speaking, building self-confidence along through various productive activities like constructive debates, OTDs, reviews with experts, a presentation on various national as well as international issues. The main objective of Daydreamers is to reshape the society and shatter the light of knowledge. Okay, moving on forward, the topic of today's discussion is a shift in balance of powers with Mr. Zanfar Ali Grewal. Let me introduce you to Mr. Grewal. Mr. Grewal is currently working as a lecturer at the Department of International Relations at NUMIL Islamabad. He holds MS degree in IR from South Korea, and he's also a writer of more than 100 plus articles, which have been various reputed national and international news sites. His area of expertise lies in the analyzing changing nature of global world order. Okay, before starting, I request you all to please keep your mics muted throughout the session in order to avoid any disturbance. If you have got any or suggestion, you may drop them in the chat box. And at the end of session, we will discuss them. I request Mr. Gawal, please initiate the discussion.
Dear participant, good afternoon. Am I audible, Ali?
Very well.
Okay, thank you. So I'm really grateful to the organizers of today's talk, which is on this the shift in balance of power, or we can say that this topic is about the dynamics of changing power at international relations or in the international system. In order to discuss this topic, balance of power or the shift in power in international relations, let me start. When we call this shift, it is basically this changing dynamics or the relationship between United States of America being the dominating power and China being the emerging power. So this the shift or the dynamic power between these two great states, which are we can say the most influential players in today's international relations. There are different theoretical approaches which can be applied in order to understand this the shift. Like power transition theory, you must have studied about this. And in addition to this, we can also relate this topic with the concept of Thucydides trap, or what we also call it as classic trap. So this shift in balance of power, or I mean the dynamics of great power relations, can be linked with world order. World order means that how international system functions, or we can say that at broader level, all the states are part of international system, which comes under scope of world order. So similarly, great powers like United States of America and China, they are also working in the very system. So in order to understand that how world order, I mean, what is world order or how it functions? Simply, world order can be defined as the distribution of power. Distribution of power among great states or among influential actors of the system. So if we, I mean, focus on this, the definition of world order, there is a key word which is power. Power, the concept of power can be simply defined as that it is the ability to influence the behavior of others. In the historical context, power has been considered as military power or the use of military force. Particularly, we can say that realist school of thought has been explaining power in the context of military force or military capabilities. But with the change in circumstances or with the change in, we can say, the international environment, the concept of power has also been changed. Joseph S. Nye has included the soft aspect of power. In the words of Joseph S. Nye, we can say that power is the ability to influence the behavior of others. So, as we know, that in order to influence the behavior of others, military is the important component, or military is one of the key aspects. But we can be influenced by others, even in case of individuals or in case of states, that we can be influenced by non-military means or non-military tools, which mean that here Joseph S. Nye is referring to this the soft aspect of the power. I mean the soft uh, components of power, which Joseph S. Nye has called is soft power. In the understanding of Joseph S. Nye, that soft power can be derived primarily from three things, namely culture, then values, and then legitimate policies. So the concept of soft power is equally important in the words of Joseph S. Nye, that in order to achieve foreign policy objectives in 21st century, like any great powers, particularly he is referring to the United States of America, that if US wants to achieve its foreign policy objectives, US has to follow soft power as well as along with hard power. And according to Joseph S. Nye, that the combination of hard and soft power, which he termed as smart power. So, in other words, I can say smart power in 21st century is required to achieve foreign policy objectives by the United States of America. Even according to Joseph S. Nye, that the US could not achieve its foreign policy objectives like in case of Afghanistan war or in case of Iraq war. In the understanding of Joseph S. Nye, that United States of America could not achieve its objectives primarily because the US could not apply, I mean, more effectively, I mean, could not apply soft power more effectively in case of Afghanistan and Iraq war. So with this context, I would now, I mean, come to the core of the topic, that as we know that United States of America is dominating in today's international relations or in today's international politics. So, but this the shift in power or a shift in balance of power is one of the key themes in today's international relations. So there are different, we can say, topics which are there are different debates or themes which are associated with associated with this concept. For example, there is a debate about the decline of the United States of America. So, similarly, there is also a debate or a theme about rise of China. So these two points, or we can say these two topics or issues, are highly interlinked. For example, if we talk about China's rise, indirectly it means that we are referring to decline of the United States of America. So the other way around as well. If we talk about the decline of the United States of America, it means that we are referring to rise of China. So, in order to understand this, that how U.S. Decline is in the process of so this means two topics or two issues or two themes of today's international relations are interlinked. There are two views regarding the rise of China. One school of thought believes that rise of China does not mean decline of the United States of America. So, in other words, we can say there is no direct relationship between China's rise and the decline of the United States. The other view is that rise of China means that there is decline of the United States of America. Let me clarify this thing. There is no doubt that China is rising. Similarly, there is no doubt that comparatively United States of America is in decline. So, in other words, I can say that there is definitely a connection or direct relationship between China's rise and decline of the United States of America. So, like if we compare United States' role or influence in international relations in past 100 years, I can say that with this decline of the US in power has caused for the shift from US being the hegemonic power or being the unilateral power. It now is shifting from this unipolarity towards multipolarity, which means that this relationship between these two great powers, or the shift in balance of power, or the shift in power is in fact is also affecting world order. So we can say that the relationship between these two great powers of the time, the relationship between these two great powers of the time is directly influencing world order as well. So, as I have already mentioned, that world order simply means that it's about the distribution of power among great states or among great actors. So, if you talk about that, the U.S. Decline is U.S. power is in decline. It means that in post-Cold War era, there has been a shift from unipolarity towards multipolarity. A unipolarity simply can be defined as a uni means single, polarity means is from pole. So unipolarity means that when a single power dominating international relations, so then the system or the shape of the world order would be unipolar. So we can say after disintegration of Soviet Union in 1991, the system was a unipolar. So when system is unipolar, it means that the most powerful state, which has been the United States of America in post-Cold War era. So United States of America has been following unilateralist approach. Unilateralist approach means that US has been taking key decisions in international relations single-handedly, without we can say taking into confidence of the other great powers. Then there is a shift from unipolarity to world order, which is called as unimultipolarity. Samuel P. Huntington has given the concept of this uni-multipolarity. Samuel P. Huntington has written an article. Title is "The Lonely Superpower," which was published in 1999. So, in this article of Lonely Superpower, Samuel P. Huntington has talked about the concept of uni-multipolarity. For Huntington, uni-multipolarity means that uni is for United States of America, and multipolarity can be used for other great powers like China is there, like re-emergence of Russia. Even we can include India as an emerging major power. Or in addition to these states, we can also add here like Britain, France, or Japan in context of economy. But Huntington believes that though system is shifting from unipolarity towards multipolarity, before enters into ideal multipolar system, there will be another kind of world order which is a unimultipolarity, and it will be for like 1 to 2 decades. So where we can say, in the words of Samuel P. Huntington, and he stated this in 1919, which means that almost 2 decades have been over since this time period. So from this point of view, we can say that till today, world is not ideally multipolar. Though it has been shifted from unipolarity towards multipolarity, which means that within this multipolar world system, United States of America enjoys special status, and US can be called here as the first among equals. So again, the US scholars can be divided into two groups. One school of thought believes, or one kind of scholars believe, that United States of America even is dominating in today's international relations. And United, like I would quote here, Charles Cross of America cannot do whatever it wants. Examples are there. For example, we can say the United States of America could not achieve its objectives in Afghanistan. United States of America could not stop Bashar al-Assad in Syria since the time period of Obama administration. But again, United States of America could not achieve its objective in case of Syria. So, in addition to this, we can also add here the United States of America has been trying to prevent Russian involvement in case of in Ukraine crisis. Again, despite economic sanctions, United States of America could not prevent Russian involvement in Ukraine. So all these examples indicate that United States of America is no more hegemonic power. United States of America cannot exercise its policies unilaterally. Here, even we can also add example of Corona crisis or COVID-19. That this COVID-19 has also, I mean, we can say, uh, 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 provided this evidence that United States of America is not in a position to dominate in international relations. So we can say that COVID-19 crisis has caused for humiliation for the United States of America, in a sense that United States of America could not prove itself as a world leader within China. And in addition to this, China has also led at global level in her attempts to deal with corona crisis. All these examples indicate that how we can say this shift is in transition. Means how United States of America has lost its control over power, being the sole superpower in post Cold War era. I mean, after 1991, or how United States of America has lost its role as unilateralist power. So, but if we, I mean, talk about this, that what would happen in near future? That if I would, I mean, here I would try to deal with this question, that this shift in power means that China is going to replace the United States of America. So the answer is actually China, in my understanding, that China, though China is rising, though China has gained a lot in so many areas of the world, China, particularly, China has become economic superpower, and there are certain estimates that by 2025 or 2030, China would become the largest economy in context of GDP. So, but here I would say that China would not be in a position to replace the United States of America in true sense of the term. So when I say in true sense of the term, here there is a need to recall the concept of power. As I was referring to Joseph S. Nye believes that in 21st century, the concept of power has become multidimensional. So when we say that multidimensional, it means that there are different dimensions of power. For example, military is one dimension of power. Similarly, there is economy, which can as a second key pillar or component of power. In addition to military and economy, there is political influence. Then we can also add here, there is social influence, which America, it means that China has to replace the US in all these sphere of power, or in all these areas of power. But we can say that China's rise far behind from the United States of America in context of military power, military technological advancement, or in case of military spending. So the point I'm trying to make is that power simply does not mean that it is military or it is economy, global institutions. So in addition to this, we can say that how much you are influencing the world by your soft power means how powerful your social influence is. So here we can say that China can be economic superpower, China can be a military superpower, but China does not have any agenda. China, in other words, I can say China is neither capable nor China is having willpower to replace the United States of America in context of political values or in context of social influence, which means we can say that China would not replace the United States of America. So in this context, I would foresee that in future, system would not be replaced by by China. Means United States of America, even if US would lose its economic power, even if United States of America would lose its military power. So United States of America would be important if we talk about the social and political aspects of international system. So even in addition to this, I can also add here, so the dominance of the United States of America in international institutions like in United Nations, like in IMF, World Bank, WTO, all these examples indicate that China is not in a position to replace the dominance of the United States of America, even in the case of all these international institutions. All these examples indicate that China would not be in a position to replace the United States of America. Here, I would also add here that the real strength of the United States of America is neither military power nor its economy. The real strength of the United States research and development. So research and development. So which means that the US economy is primarily based on the culture of research and development. So US economy is primarily based on its culture of innovation. Strictly, I would say real strength of the US is its knowledge economy. So you might have heard this term of knowledge economy. Knowledge economy means that economy of ideas. As we know that US is leading in IT. So means that United States of here I would also like quote Fareed Zakaria, who is one of the leading US journalist. He hosts a program in CNN. He also writes for Washington Post. who is the leading newspaper in the United States of America. In the words of Free Zikria, that the real strength of the United States of America is that future is being invented in the US. So this statement of Free Zikria that future is being invented in United States, it means that US is leading in innovation. United States of America is leading in creativity. So the point I'm trying to make is that China can become economic superpower of GDP. Even if you talk about China for the economy from per capita income point of view, there is a hell of difference between China the per capita income and that of the United States per capita income, which means that China even is leading, or China's emerging economic power is in one aspect of economy. To simplify this, I can say that even China would not dominate in all aspects of economic power. So I mean, these points indicate that in future, China would not be in a position to replace the dominance of the United States of America in all aspects of power, which means that though there is a shift from this unipolarity towards multipolarity, but from within this even multipolar system, United States of America would be playing key role. But in other words, I can say, though there is a decline of the United States of America, being the hegemonic power, or being United States of America's role cannot be replaced. I stop here. You are welcome for your questions or your comments. G. Ali.
Okay, sir. Now we will have questions from our audience. First question is from Ali Mujahid Khattar.
Basically, the question is from Ali Mujahid. He wants to ask it why the rise of China is directly related to decline of United States of America, although other European countries are also in the race of being the superpower.
In my understanding, because no other major power is having that kind of capabilities as China is having. Like we can say, China is the second largest economy in the world at the moment from GDP point of view. Similarly, we can say that China is having the second largest military capabilities, again from military spending point of view. So China is the country which has invested in economy throughout the world. So simply, I mean, to simplify my answer, I would say that in order to achieve anything, or in order to do anything extraordinary, two things are required. One is capability, the other one is willpower. So we can say China is having this capability. And even if we focus on shift in China's foreign policy, so China is also enhancing its willpower to replace the United States of America, or to challenge the dominance of the United States of America in international relations. Here, I would also give another aspect of China's foreign policy. If we focus on China's foreign policy, China is following dual approach in its foreign policy. At one level, China is trying to enhance its influence in existing international institutions like IMF, like World Bank, like United Nations. Similarly, or simultaneously, China is also creating its own institutions, like China has created SCO as a regional forum, which is again, focusing on primarily economy issues, separatist issues, terrorist issues. In addition to this, we can also add here that China has also created AIIB Bank. AIIB Bank stands for Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which was created by China in 2014. It was criticized as an alternate to IMF. In addition to this, I would say that last year in November 2020, China has signed RCEP. RCEP stands for Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Again, which is the largest economic forum. RCEP signed by China, ASEAN states, then South Korea, Japan, and Australia. Means this is again an initiative by China to replace the United States of America in economic affairs of East Asia. Last, my comment to this question is that if we see United States of America's apprehensions about China's rise, even United States of America की जो like reports, intelligence report कह लें, उसकी Pentagon report कह लें, so United States of America feels challenged by China. We can also add here example of Quad. Quad is again an understanding by between four states, namely US, Australia, Japan, and India. So all these four states are trying to challenge emerging China's naval in power or influence in Indian Ocean and Asia Pacific. On the basis of all these examples or on all these points, I would say that China is having this capability to challenge the dominance of the United States of America. No other state, even either it is Russia or India or any other state or any other major power, cannot challenge the US in regional and international affairs.
Thank you so much, sir. Moving is from Fatima Faha Malik. Am I audible, sir?
Ji, Ali, please.
She asked, United States under Trump administration had an environment of confrontation regarding different aspects with China. Will US under Biden administration continue the same environment?
Ali, got your question that either there will be any shift in US foreign policy during Biden administration in comparison to Trump. I mean, vis-a-vis China. I don't see any key change or shift in foreign policy behavior of United States of America under leadership of Biden. इसको मैं आंसर इस तरह से करूंगा कि if we focus on US foreign policy in the historical context, US continuity in foreign policy has been one of the key aspect or characteristics of United States of America. So means when you are not in the White House in election campaign, you may have different slogans regarding foreign policy. But once you are in White House, you are being briefed by Pentagon, you are being briefed by a State Department. So which means that you have to safeguard the national interest of the United States of America. Even if we like focus, अभी तक का जो इसकी पॉलिसी है बाइडन की since he is in White House since January 2021, initiatives taken by Biden are indicating that there would not be key difference in US foreign policy. I would quote here, or I would refer to US relations with Russia. Last week, I think in an interview, Biden called Putin as a killer, which this is an example to judge that how Biden is seeing Russia under leadership of Putin, which means that there is no difference in foreign policy behavior of Biden and during Trump era. और इसी तरह से I would also add here that how Biden is following the footprints of Trump in case of Afghanistan. Again, we can say there is no visible change or shift in US foreign policy with Afghanistan. All these examples indicate that Biden, I personally believe, would be considering China as a challenge or as a challenger or as a threat to the dominance or to the interest of the United States.
Okay, sir. if US is unmatchable in many aspects of power, or if I say it would continue to enjoy its superpower status, then why we say that unipolarity is shifting to multipolarity?
Good, good. Very good question. Again, things are being considered or explained in comparative way. So when we say that United States of America is no more hegemon, it means that is unable to prevent rise of other players. The point is that being hegemon is one thing, being unilateralist state is one thing, being the most influential, being the most important within multipolar system is another thing. So the point is, or I think, or what the where the international system is heading. So United States of America would not be sole superpower. United States of America would not be in a position to follow unilateralist approach, but United States of America would be playing important role within multipolar system, which means that United States of America is going nowhere. It means, I mean, United States of America would not have its disintegration. यहाँ पे बल्कि मैं ये ऐड करता जाऊंगा कि इन द हिस्टोरिकल कॉन्टेक्स्ट इफ वी कंपेयर like the or if we foresee the future of United States of America being great power or major power with the historical powers. In the historical context, most of the cases, when there is a decline of a state, it had become irrelevant in international relations. Like if we talk about the role of the great powers in 20th century. After World War II, we can say gradually Britain became irrelevant in international relations, or Britain lost its a leading role in international relations after World War II. Similarly, I would also add here the example of Soviet Union. After 1991, Soviet Union not only lost its status of superpower, but rather I would say that there was a disintegration of Soviet Union, which means that Soviet Union was irrelevant in great power relations or in international relations. So but when we say about the United States of America, there would not be disintegration of the US in future.
The next question is from Awais Nazir. With the rise of China, can we say that means of diplomacy, method of conventional warfare, and politics at international level will also be changed?
I don't think so.
Did you get my point, sir?
Ali, got your question. So with the rise of China, question is, as I have understood this, that with the rise of China, is there any change in diplomacy? So Ali, that there will be any change in diplomacy or in the functioning of international system with rise of China. Again, so far, what we are seeing that China is not shifting. States of America has so far is not a revisionist state. Rather, China is a status quo power. Revisionist state means that China is in no mood to revise the rules of the game. So the point I'm trying to make is that China is following the trend of the United States of America. China is not trying to shift the system. So it means that with the rise of China, there would not be any change in the functioning of like diplomacy or in the characteristics of national system. GLE, next question, please.
Sir, the question that is being asked by Mr. Nisar Chand is that how political liberalization is necessary for China to compete with United States in the field of innovation.
Political liberalization, I think there is no like connection between political liberalization and in the culture of innovation. But I would link this with the United States of America. United States of America. Am I audible, Fatma?
Yes, sir, you are.
Ji. I was saying that there is no direct relationship between China's culture of innovation and a political liberalization. But definitely there is a link. Link is that United States of America's innovation or the culture of creativity has been highly dependent upon immigration policies of the United States of America, which means that the immigrants from like Africa, from Asia, from Middle East, from South America, the immigrants in the US have been playing key role in the development of United States of America. But so far China has not followed such kind of approach, which means that if China would be a pluralistic society, if China would be an open society, and if China would open its border to the great brains of international society, this policy can lead towards uh, uh, the development of China. So, from this point of view, there can be linkages between political liberalization and China's culture of research and development. Because, as we know, that China is a closed society, which means that great minds or the immigrants would not prefer uh, uh, to be in China as a permanent settlers. Uh, that's it. Fatma? Ali, next question, please.
Thank you, sir. That was all for today. And thank you so much for giving us your precious time. The way you talked through the perplexing topic really, really amazed us all. And we express our gratitude for sparing time for us in your busy schedule.
Okay, Ali,
I hope
thank you.
that was informative. It was all for today.
Okay, Ali, thank you so much for your hosting, and I'm grateful to again Izaz for this invitation. And I'm feeling sorry for this connectivity issue. So my apologies if there has been some inconvenience. Okay, thank you all.